Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is currently 6:52 p.m. and I am determined to get this Vlogmas up. Today has been one of those days that has just kind of run me wild, and I am in need of some self-care, but like, what am I trying to say? Some like digital detox self-care, I guess I'll say. That's not what I was looking for, but it means the same thing. I don't want to be on my phone. I don't really want to play my Switch right now because it's not like as mindful when I'm in moments like this, and I get kind of bored with it because I'm not thinking. Also, can I like do something differently because my back hurts? All right, much better. So today I am going to be baking bread. Apple cinnamon bread to be exact. If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen me make this bread numerous times. Yes, I still have to follow the recipe. No, I do not have it by heart. I never thought I would be doing like a cooking tutorial because that seems like a lot of pressure. So I'm not gonna make it a tutorial, but I do want it to be kind of like a bake with me kind of thing. So, excuse me. While it's baking, I want to talk about 5 things I did to save money in 2020. If you listen to the podcast, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I paid off all my consumer debt and I felt really great about it. And that took some strong intentionality. So I want to give some tips that don't involve like moving back home with your parents, because I know all the articles are like how I saved $40,000 in a year, and it's always I moved back home and I didn't have to pay student loans. My tips are not going to include that, even though, well, I'll get into all that stuff later. So right now, let's get into this bread recipe. I am going to be putting the recipe in the description box. I just got it from Pinterest, but right now, let me pull it up real quick, because I just sent it to someone. So I just made this last week, and people were asking me for the recipe left and right, and I was like, hold on, y'all, like, whoa. Okay, so I have it pulled up. Okay, pet peeve time. I do not like how every cooking blog, I almost feel bad for saying this because you're creatives too, and I get it, and I probably talk a lot about my life and people are not interested. But we really came here just for the recipe. So can you at least put that first? And then if I eat the food, I'm like, wow, this person must be like really cool. They must have a really great story about how their grandmama used to make this for them whenever they would lose soccer games, make them feel better, and it's perfect with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. I don't know. Maybe then I'll read it if y'all didn't put that first. But I get it. I understand. I just don't like it. Whatever. So this recipe takes about 10 minutes of prep time and about 50 minutes of cooking time. Okay, so let me get the things that I need. All right, so the recipe is simple. We just have our light brown sugar, our white sugar in that canister, our butter, which needs to be softened. We have some cinnamon, 2 eggs, flour, baking powder, an apple, some syrup / vanilla extract, and our milk back there. I used to be worried about baking with almond milk. I don't know, I just felt like maybe you couldn't do it, but you can. It's totally fine. So I am going to mix up and chop up all these ingredients, and I will check in a moment.
Just see those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting-a-ting-a-ling. I'm on the lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside, snow is falling and friends are calling.
oven. It's gonna be in there for almost an hour. I'm not gonna talk that long. I don't have that much to say, but I want to talk about some things I did to save money this past year, and I guess the year before. So if you listen to the podcast, which is Gentler, or follow me on Instagram, then you know I paid off all of my consumer debt in February 2020. A couple of things as like disclaimers. I didn't have a huge amount of debt. It was enough, but I didn't have a ton of massive debt. It did seem like an unsurmountable mountain for me for a while. So it definitely was a scary amount for me. Second thing, I got a full-time job in August 2019. So my income increased incredibly. Well, not incredibly, I was making income because I went from being a part-time worker in college to working full-time and getting a salary. But with that, my expenses increased incredibly. I really didn't have any expenses besides my phone bill and my credit card bills. But when I graduated, you know, I'm paying for everything. So the actual amount of money that I had to play around with each month didn't really change that much. Or so I thought, until I started doing some of these like strategies and things. Like I mentioned before, I did not move back home, so I didn't want this to be like those articles where the person saves like $40,000 in a year, but then you find out they live with their parents. And I used to get annoyed at articles like that, but I recognize now that if I really, really wanted something bad enough, for me, I'm blessed to say that would be an option. I could move back home for right now while I'm working remotely. I haven't had to get to that point yet, but it is an option. So it is, for me, nice to see people who have made that decision and came out on top, just because it kind of normalizes the decision for me. But not everyone is able to do that. Not everyone has a family to go home to. Not everyone's families can support them. So it's not really an option for everybody. So I am blessed to say that if I needed to, I could. I didn't though. So I'm gonna go into the 5 things I did. And before I do that, one more thing. There's so many videos, so many articles, so many podcast episodes on how to save money. I think for me, the biggest thing, regardless, even if you don't take another thing away from this video, the biggest thing that has helped me save money is to understand where and why I spend money. What areas in my budget do I typically overspend in or just spend excessively, and why? Like, what causes me to do that? What is the emotion behind that spending? And that's when, you know, I talk a lot about financial self-care, and those are a lot of the concepts that kind of go into that. Just kind of understanding your spending on an emotional level so that you can combat it differently. Because if you keep like trying to save your money yourself to death, you're not gonna really get far. I didn't, and because I've been trying for years to pay off my credit cards, and even if I did, I think I managed to pay one off once, and then I maxed it out again because I hadn't really gotten to the root of the problem. So just sit down and understand where you spend the most money and what happens in those situations that cause you to spend that money. You'll get so much farther. I am not really concerned with being like the perfect budgeter. I don't care. I don't care if I should be able to just like have my money, like be able to put my money into savings and not think about it. It took me a while to get there, so I'm not concerned, because at the end of the day, the money that you save is still the same, you know? Whatever route you took to get there, you still save the money, it's still there. So I care less about how I do it, and more so just, is it getting done? Same thing I talk about with my water and all that stuff. I am not trying to change, I am trying to change my behaviors, but in a systematic way. I'm not trying to change who I am to get things done because I think I should. So that's to you. I am also gonna like put my blog post down and like podcast episode where I talk more about like financial self-care, because I'm trying to gloss over these concepts that have been kind of big in my life, and I don't know if they're making much sense. But with all that being said, let's get into these 5 things I did. So the first thing I did, so some context, and I've talked about this on the podcast so often, so if you listen to that then you've heard this before. I was really bad about spending money on coffee. The areas where I spent the most money were coffee, eating out, and just impulse emotional buying. I'm not really much of a clothes shopper. I've been wearing this sweater since probably like freshman year of college, and I have some clothes from before then. I do like shopping, but when I look at my spending, that's not really an area that I have to worry about too much. I don't really do it. I don't like contributing to fast fashion when I don't have to. So I don't spend that much money in that area. But coffee, eating out, emotional impulse, so that's like Target, TJ Maxx, Marshall's area, those are like where I really kind of go wild. So I was really bad about spending money on coffee, especially because the Starbucks where I work is like right by my office. Like I have to walk past it every single day, and it's like a 3-minute walk. If I'm bored in the middle of the workday, I'm like, oh, you know, I get outside, go get coffee. You know, I can order it from my office. By the time I get to the Starbucks, it'll be ready. I'll come right back. We're good. So it was really starting to rack up, and there was one point where it was like Wednesday and I had already spent $30 on coffee because I was using my Starbucks card to get rewards, and the lowest that you could recharge your card was $10. So every day I was paying $10 on there, and with the coffee I'm getting, the $10 was never enough to last for 2 days. So I always had a balance left over, but never enough to get another cup of coffee. So I was putting a lot of money in Starbucks' pockets, and I wasn't going to just like not drink coffee because I'm a coffee drinker. I know that's something I like, and I know that if I try to cut it out of my life completely, I'm just gonna put it on a pedestal, and it's gonna become like this forbidden fruit for me, where I'm gonna break at some point and I'm gonna go wild. I'm gonna go to Starbucks and I'm gonna say, because I've done this before, I need a drink for right now, and I'm gonna get a cold drink for later when I finish the hot drink, and then I'm gonna get some pumpkin bread, and I might as well get a cake pop too. And ooh, this mug is really cute, because I have been like withholding it. So I had to think about how I could still enjoy that need in a sustainable way that aligned with my financial goals. I hate Keurig coffee. Can't do it. Hate it. Feels like, tastes like it's watered down to me. I just don't like it. I've had Keurigs for years. I do not like the coffee quality. And regular drip coffee wasn't bad, but it took too much time to kind of get like the Starbucks quality. And I know Starbucks isn't even like that quality of coffee, but you know what I mean. It takes a long time to elevate it. So at the time, I was kind of getting put onto the Nespresso machines, and I was like, huh. And I got one as a gift. I was already gonna buy one for myself because I just kind of was like, you know, this might be a good in-between, like me making coffee at home, but the quality is elevated and it's still like luxury, still tapping into that emotional need that I need for Starbucks, but I'm able to save a little bit more money. I saved so much money by upgrading my coffee machine. I got rid of my French press. I stopped trying to force it with the drip coffee and all that, because I would drink it and be like, oh, this isn't good, and I just still go to Starbucks in the morning. So I was able to really cut out Starbucks, and it was months before I stepped back into that Starbucks with my own money. I had gotten some gift cards over the summer, over Christmas, because everyone knows I love Starbucks, so I spent those, but before I spent my own money, months had gone by. So that was key. Great way for me to save money. And for you, that might not be like a huge thing to buy an espresso, but I was spending a lot of money on coffee. So if you can find that area where you're spending a lot of money, you might be able to find a similar solution. So the second thing, I said I'm not really a clothes buyer, and I don't really worry about that, but I had just started my full-time job, so I needed a wardrobe that was different than what I already had. And I went on ThredUp and I just looked through to see if I could find some basics to construct outfits with, and then maybe I would like supplement the outfit with a new piece, you know, maybe like a jacket or some jewelry or something. But the thing was, I started shopping secondhand because at that point I had to buy clothes, but I still wanted to make it a little bit more affordable for myself. So I used ThredUp. I looked on apps like Poshmark and Depop, and I've bought from them in the past, but I didn't really find much what I was looking for at that moment. Yeah, I didn't really find much. I don't really go to a ton of thrift stores anymore. I used to in high school, but I haven't really since then. Like I did Buffalo Exchange a couple of times, but other than that, like I didn't really do much. But ThredUp was really cool because it was super convenient. I didn't have to go anywhere. I could just look and see what was available, and I could read reviews and all that stuff. So it was just a lot more accessible for me. So that was the second thing that I did. The third thing I did, I started using regularly delivery and store pickup options. Like I said, I am a very impulsive and emotional spender. So if I went into Target, I would go in for the thing I was looking for and like come out with like 20 more things, which a lot of people do. I'm not special in that regard, but if I knew I needed something, I would check and see if it was at the local Target. If it was, I would just do order pickup. Even if it was like a quick thing for me to get, I would do order pickup because then I knew I didn't have to go deep into the store. I didn't have to see everything. I didn't have to be tempted after a long day at work. I could just go straight to the counter, get my item, go, and that was it. Same thing with delivery. I hate going to the grocery store anyway, so I typically will go, I will do Instacart for all my groceries. There is like extra fees, so there's like a service fee and the delivery fee or something, and then the tip. It usually doesn't add up to be that much. I do try to tip the delivery people really well because, you know, they're taking the trip to the grocery store for me. But I find that so this is when I talk about you have to understand those situations where you tend to overspend and what happens. So for me, I hate going to the grocery store. So I'll go to the grocery store with this long list because I don't want to go back. I want to be able to get as much stuff as I can in one trip. I get overwhelmed by all the people and by just not understanding the way the layout is, and I just get really anxious. So I'll leave with like half the stuff that I need, and then I'll be like, okay, well, I still don't have any of the other things I need. I don't want to go back to the store because I hate the grocery store. So then before that cycle is up, I've run out of food, so now I'm doing Uber Eats, and now I'm eating unhealthily, and it's messing up my mood in a lot of different ways. So I'm saving money by paying for the delivery like fee and tip because I am making sure that my fridge is stocked, and I'm not gonna fall into a moment where I'm like, I have nothing to eat here, and then I'm paying for Uber Eats and Postmates and all that. Again, if it doesn't apply to you, figure out what would. This was a huge game changer for me because I can also easily compare prices without going back and forth. Like all the situations that make me anxious in the grocery store, I can avoid by using Instacart and shopping online. The fourth thing I did, which kind of goes in that same realm, I started investing in like fun and pleasure. I started making sure that I have something waiting for me for when I feel like down and when it's been a long day. Because like I said, if it had been a long day at work, I get on the train, I ride a few stops, and then there's the stop that TJ Maxx is at, and I'm like, or I think first is Target. So I get out, I look around Target, I get my things, you know, I overspend at Target. Then I ride one more stop, and now we're at the TJ Maxx and Marshall stop, and I'm like, I already blew my budget at Target, might as well, I'll just figure it out later. And then I blow another bag in TJ Maxx. So I had to figure out, okay, what can I do that is enjoyable for me, that is fun for me to do whenever I have a long day, so that I don't feel tempted to go into these stores and just spend emotionally. So I mean, that looks like a lot of different things. I have to keep myself interested. I can't do the same thing for too long, whether it's like a fun book I'm reading, or I got back into crocheting. I just bought a Switch, so Animal Crossing has been super fun. Baking like I'm doing tonight, just things to kind of get my mind off of whatever has been weighing heavily on me, so that I don't feel tempted to get on Etsy, get on Target.com, all of those things, and just overspend. So finding something that you can kind of have as your go-to if you are also an emotional and impulsive buyer like me. And then the last thing that has been super helpful, especially if you're working on a savings goal like me, have a timeline with like specific dates. You should know when that goal should be completed. If you're trying to save a certain amount for some venture or a trip, when that happens again, or to pay down debt, you should be able to tell like, okay, every so often I'm saving this amount, so at this point on this day, on March 13th, it will be completed. I'll have it. And that way, when you're tempted to overspend, you can ask yourself honestly, okay, if I stay in line, I can have that thing I've been working so hard for by March 13th. Am I willing to put that off for this Uber Eats order? Am I willing to put that off for this, I don't know, this sweater, this whatever that thing is for you? And sometimes like you do need some leeway, and that's where I think, you know, you have to work in and invest that pleasure and all of that. But that has put a lot of things in perspective for me, like knowing the date, because it starts to feel real. And whenever, I think a lot of times when I fail on savings goals, it's because it didn't really feel real in the first place. But when I attach a date to it, and I know, and I can start imagining what life is going to be like after that date, I don't want to mess with that. I'm ready for that. So having that date in mind has really helped me to put things in perspective and stay focused on my goals. So those are the 5 things I did to save money in order to pay off my consumer debt, and the 5 things I'm continuing to do to achieve another major financial goal. And I can't wait to share with you all when it happens, along with the new tips I've integrated since starting that goal. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I am going to continue waiting for the bread to finish. I'm going to edit this portion, and then I'll show y'all the finished product.